Parking a Rolls-Royce in a tight spot is not just about maneuvering a car into a limited space. It's about handling one of the most luxurious, prestigious, and commanding vehicles in the world and seeing how it behaves in circumstances that seem almost beneath its grand design. And in today's video, I decided to take on this unusual challenge to see what it feels like to squeeze an automotive masterpiece, a machine that symbolizes wealth, status, and ultimate comfort, into a space that barely accommodates the average sedan. And from the very beginning, the idea was both thrilling and intimidating because a Rolls-Royce isn't just a car, it's an experience. From the moment you approach it and see the spirit of ecstasy proudly displayed on the hood, to the way the door closes with a signature soft close, cocooning you in handcrafted leather, polished wood veneers, and whisper-quiet insulation. And I couldn't help but ask myself if I was really about to risk putting this multi-$100,000 vehicle into a situation where a single scratch could cost more than some people's entire cars. But that's exactly what makes the experiment so fascinating, because it's easy to drive a Rolls-Royce down an open boulevard where its size and presence command respect. But what happens when you're in the urban jungle, when the only available parking space is a painfully narrow slot between two ordinary cars, where centimeters of clearance could mean the difference between success and embarrassment? So as I approached the spot, my heart was racing, not just because of the potential financial consequences, but also because of the sheer absurdity of the scenario, a car designed for red carpet arrivals and chauffeured comfort being asked to do battle with the harsh reality of city parking. And the first step was lining up, which immediately highlighted the Rolls-Royce's immense proportions. Because while the car glides so effortlessly that you sometimes forget its size, the moment you try to place it between painted lines you realize just how wide, long, and imposing it truly is. And even though modern Rolls-Royces are equipped with some of the most advanced parking cameras, sensors, and driver aids in the automotive world, there is still no substitute for the sheer anxiety of watching mirrors, curbs, and bumpers closing in on you. And as I began to maneuver the steering wheel, the weight and precision of the controls reminded me that this car is engineered for smoothness above all else, which makes every turn feel deliberate and stately rather than quick and twitchy. So when you're trying to nudge it into a spot that looks like it was designed for compact hatchbacks, you realize just how much patience and control it demands, and every second felt like an eternity as the sensors began their symphony of beeps, each one warning me that I was approaching another surface, another obstacle, another potential disaster. And I leaned heavily on the 360-degree camera system, which projects an almost surreal overhead view of the car, allowing me to see exactly where each corner was in relation to the lines and the neighboring vehicles. But even with that advanced technology, the sense of tension didn't disappear, because this wasn't just about parking any car, it was about parking a symbol of perfection, where the thought of a scratch feels like a crime against craftsmanship. And slowly, inch by inch, I moved forward, reversed, adjusted, corrected, feeling the massive hood stretch out ahead like the bow of a yacht, while behind me the rear seemed to loom closer and closer to the car behind. And for a moment I wondered if this was even possible, if maybe I had set myself up for an impossible task. But then I remembered that Rolls-Royce, despite its image of effortless grandeur, has designed its cars to be surprisingly usable, with rear-wheel steering in some models that allow tighter turns than you'd expect. And as I turned the wheel again, I felt the back of the car slide smoothly into alignment, narrowing the gap in a way that seemed almost magical, and with each micro-adjustment I could see the car settling into place, its majestic presence filling the space so completely that it almost looked like the parking spot had been carved specifically for it. And after what felt like an hour but was really only a few minutes, the Rolls-Royce finally came to a stop, perfectly aligned, its elegant proportions sitting between two ordinary cars that suddenly looked almost embarrassed to be there. And I leaned back in the seat, exhaling a breath I hadn't realized I was holding, overwhelmed by the strange mix of pride and relief, because I had done it. I had parked a Rolls-Royce in a spot that most people wouldn't even attempt with their compact SUV, and in that moment I realized something important, that this wasn't just about parking. It was about proving that luxury doesn't always mean fragility, that even the most opulent machine in the world can be put to the test in the most mundane, stressful situations and still emerge with its dignity intact. And as I stepped out to admire the result, watching people passing by stop and stare at the sight of this rolling palace squeezed neatly into a tight space, I couldn't help but smile at the absurdity and the triumph of it all. And throughout this entire experience, I learned that driving and parking a Rolls-Royce is not about rushing or cutting corners. It's about patience, precision, and respect for the engineering and craftsmanship that went into it. And while it might not have been designed for this kind of challenge, it handled it with a level of grace that made me appreciate it even more. So if you've ever wondered whether a Rolls-Royce can survive the everyday reality of city driving, the answer is yes, but with a caveat. It requires the same level of attention and care that its makers put into building it, and in the end that makes the victory of sliding it into a tight spot not just a driving achievement but an experience, a story, A memory that I'll never forget, because the truth is, there's something oddly satisfying about taking the world's ultimate symbol of automotive luxury and proving that it can still handle the simple, humble, and nerve-wracking challenge of parking like the rest of us.